on this, Broadway, Patrick.
Say why? I was in a bay, they wouldn't turn for shit. I count on all I got the money, I'm counting president.
I originally had an hour-long video that I wrote/made on this topic that I'm just gonna discard because I want my actual thoughts and feelings on this expressed in as raw a format as possible. So, here we are. My day has already not been too amazing. Fucking hell. This stand is not good, like, at all. Anyways, I was originally supposed to take one of the last 2 of my finals for college today, but because I have a fucking broken leg, I had contacted my teacher months ago about this, and basically I can't fucking take the final until Thursday, and I have to go in person, which, I'm not gonna lie, I don't feel like fucking doing it, because I plan on not being in the state by next week. I just need to fucking leave, so, for vacation. And so I'm not already in a good mood, so I think, yesterday I was in a relatively better mood, because I thought I was gonna get my shit done today and be on my merry way by Wednesday, but now my whole week has been extended to a bullshit test that I can't even sit at home and do. I have to take it physically in person with a fucking calculator and all this other shit that I know I'm not gonna do nearly as well on as now I have to study for longer about it. Because I was, when you're in that mentality to get something done and just do it, you kind of focus in on it. But now I kind of don't want to study for it anymore. I'm literally gonna let it linger at this point because I'm so fucking pissed at this entire situation for numerous reasons that I won't get into on this video, because I have a different fucking punching bag that I need to talk about. I am really concerned that Sean C quote about everyone here is a lame ass nigga. We some lame ass niggas here. It is a real statement. That's a real, like, I constantly think of that stupid line more than I would reasonably like to, because I am constantly confronted by the reality that, oh my god, around me is a bunch of stupid ass niggas. You knew this was gonna happen. We have to talk about it. I made fucking 4 videos on this stupid game already, and I haven't played this game since the year it came out. I have not touched it. Well, I guess that's a lie now, because I was playing a little bit of it to test, for the tutorials and all that, but, I haven't seriously wanted to play this game in a decade. Since I was, This game came out in 2014, right? So I was 9? Oh, God, that shows my age. Fuck me. This is bad. This is bad. I don't know how y'all do it. I've been making kind of hints and jokes about it in each one of my videos, the tutorial videos pertaining to this thing at this point. But I'm gonna just let the cat out of the bag. I think we've developed a bit of a rapport here that I can cash my salty checks in on now. This game fucking sucks. Like, it's bad. Like, in a way that's not normal for a product that comes out of Electronic Arts to be ass. Like, Madden has consistently been ass. FIFA has been actually not all that bad, kind of okay, but it hasn't really improved. It doesn't do what most sequel games do, where they get better every year. It's kind of meh, right? Those games are stagnant in a way that is kind of, like, ubiquitous with their genre. They're sports games, right? They don't get a lot of extra features because the fucking sport that it's based off of does not get extra rules and features added to the game constantly. Yes, there are rule changes in the NFL and in FIFA, but in both versions of fucking footy, you don't really have, the NFL and commissioners don't change the rules of the sport so drastically as to approach being a completely different game. This isn't Super Mario Strikers into Supercharged. This is 2025 into 2026, right? The rules ain't changing all that much. And so, the only thing you can do in those types of games, when their sequels comes out, is update rosters, reiterate on what's already been improved prior, tweak the things that players mentioned that they need to be tweaked, and there you go. That's how every sports game has basically worked unto death for eons. It works like that for 2K, for both WWE and NBA, but when I say 2K, I'm a black person. You know I mean basketball. There's not really anything to say with those. Those are mid because of the genre they inhabit and the fact that they have exclusive rights to each one of those brands, each one of those franchises and their respective leagues. On the other hand, the rest of Electronic Arts' catalog tends to be, real games. Let's go over it. We got Army of Two, which, in all honesty, Army of Two is one of those really, kind of fun games you remember playing as, a kid, but they're not making new Army of Two games. Which is a damn shame, because they're actually pretty good for all 3 of them that they ended up making, except Devil Cartel is definitionally the worst of the bunch. Battlefield. Battlefield tends to be a Call of Duty-esque experience, where the shape of its identity sort of changes based on what entry we're talking about, right? The original first 2 Battlefields were games centered around, recent conflicts in terms of, modern history, so World Wars, right? Eventually they would return to that for Battlefield 4 and 5, but they took a break from that for a while to focus on what the same thing the COD games did, which was to focus on modern warfare, war on terror type of stuff. And that's what Battlefield 3, 4, am I thinking of Battlefield 1 and 2? I keep forgetting that they really did that stupid shit, where they went back and called the 5th game in the franchise. Fucking, I hate EA. Anyways, the point is that basically the next two Battlefields, 3 and 4, are modern shooters, right? They take place in current day reality. Current day as in like maybe 10 years after when these games were made. Then you get Hardline, which, you know, a lot of people's favorite. It's a game that's centered around urban warfare would probably be the best way to describe it. Cops and robbers, basically. I know a lot of people find it incredibly fun to play as the FBI in terrorists. I mean, fuck, there's an entire franchise that's been the top esport in the world for decades based around that concept. But I think Battlefield's sort of expansive ideas about how war can be visualized and simulated in a virtual, you know, field is impressive. It's always been impressive. Even Battlefield 6, which is the best, like, as far as we're concerned, the best Battlefield game that's ever been made. And I mean, like, from a commercial and critical standpoint, it's been far and away, at least in the past 2 decades, it's been exceedingly good. Command and Conquer. I know for the Sims players that are watching this, you don't know what the fuck this is, but for the people who have played a Command and Conquer game, I really feel for you, honestly. It's one of the very first RTS games that was ever developed, and it was definitional, definitive in its impact on the genre as a whole. Red Shift, in my mind, is still one of the best games ever made. And they killed it. It's a game that basically has no more entries in its franchise to really stand its legs on. It's a boomer game. It's like, oh yeah, I played that when I was like a kid in 1995. Not like a game that anyone my age, like that was born in the 2000s, would actually have any attachment to. Unless you're weird like I am. Dragon Age! You might have seen in my play night I have Inquisition in there. Inquisition's okay. It's not the best Dragon Age game. That would probably be Origins. But, you know, it's their answer to what the Elder Scrolls has been for Bethesda, right? It's BioWare's baby alongside Mass Effect. But the thing is, we know that they killed Mass Effect basically by the 3rd game. Not saying Mass Effect 3 is a bad game in any single way, it's just its ending sort of makes it impossible to continue the narrative that had been developing for 5-odd-something years in that franchise, right? If you don't know, Mass Effect 3's ending is kind of infamous for being, well, it was extremely, like, negatively received by most people, because it sort of capstones an incredibly large universe by putting it in a box in the end, and also getting rid of its main character. But, you know, for endings, I think it's also kind of thematic, because it was the beginning of the end for the Mass Effect franchise as a whole. But, hey, I mean, there are plenty of people that have made that. You know, Racevik have made an entire video on Andromeda. That's beating a dead horse. The Dragon Age has been doing equally as bad so far. Velgar was not received well by the people that I imagine would have preferred or received a Dragon Age game well. I think most people really kind of saw the writing on the wall with Inquisition, and then just realized that it was going the way of the dodo. Dead Space. From what I've heard, the Dead Space remake was actually pretty good, so I can't even get about that on them, because Visceral did their shit. I do admit, though, the 3rd Dead Space game is, I feel like it was specifically designed to be played with another person. It's a much better experience if you play it with 2 folks. If you play it single player, it kind of loses a lot of its appeal with the AI, but hey, this is a plus here, actually. Here, Battlefield and Dead Space are pluses. Mass Effect, like I said, not even gonna go over it. Medal of Honor, dead. When's the last time they made a Medal of Honor game? 2020? Oh, it's a VR game. Yeah, that checks out. Warfighter was the real, like, last Medal of Honor game that they made. Nice, guys. Really hammering it in there with your, literally, like, one of your defining franchises. This was literally, so, I know people I mentioned Call of Duty when I'm talking about Battlefield. Medal of Honor was the original game that caused Call of Duty to be a thing. Just for the people that don't know their video game history, like, the term Medal of Honor was stolen from the actual Medal of Honor that we give, like, honest-to-God veterans who do some type of courageous deed or heroic act in the field of duty or whatever. But the thing about the Medal of Honor is that they give you the Medal of Honor by saying for rising above and beyond the call of duty. And Medal of Honor in and of itself is really just a bunch of rehashings of Steven Spielberg's Saving Private Ryan. So when EA was contacted to make a game based off of Saving Private Ryan, they came up with Medal of Honor. And then the people that came from Medal of Honor decided to make what would eventually be known as Call of Duty. Yeah, a lot of video game developers are kind of, like, well connected with each other. You'll realize this the longer you play them. Need for Speed. I know the racing game fans heard that one and just died in their seats. The last Need for Speed game was Unbound, and I've been hearing that it was okay. Like, I'm one of those people that really liked Unbound because its art style was really cool looking. But, like, gameplay-wise, it didn't look like it was all too great compared to how good Heat was. And I mean, the franchise has just been on hold again for another couple of years, so. But this is the longest time we've gone. We haven't had a Battlefield game this year, so far. So, it's about to call in 4-some years without one, so. Alright, I said Battlefield. Need for Speed. Put Plants vs. Zombies. But I don't want to include this, but technically it is an EA game. You might know it as being invented by PopCap, specifically George Pond. You know, beloved, greatest mobile game probably ever made. Defined basically what mobile games were going to be like going forward in the 2010s. And for the people that really know ball, it was also one of the best shooter games that ever came out on the Xbox and PlayStation 3. You know ball, you know, if you know, you know. We'll get to you in a second. This one really hurts my heart, personally. I'm not a very good skater. Let me make that abundantly clear. But I play a lot of skating video games. Somewhere on this computer and on my laptop is basically every single copy of the Tony Hawk's Underground Games Pro Skater. I know on my PS Vita I have basically all the games that came out for the PSP that were a part of that franchise. And I've been into extreme sports and, you know, X Games related stuff basically since I was little. So imagine my joy when I see this Skate franchise. Specifically Skate 3. Most people know this series because of Skate 3. It's kind of one of the most famous games ever made because it was sort of like a... It was a really big deal for the Xbox 360. It was, I think, one of the most purchased games on that console. Let's Players were really a big fan of it, you know, Hall of Meat and all that fun stuff. It was really well received. And then they came out with Skate 4, or I guess is what they're just calling it, Skate. Again, most people would just say it's okay. Most people have kind of put it in the corner of, it was never going to be a better improvement of Skate 3, because they've done way too much shit since the last Skate game, and as you may have noticed, EA Black Box aren't the people that developed this game, so what were you expecting, right? It kind of minimalized the Skate logo, it's kind of got this sleeker look and stuff, which kind of removes a lot of the edges that made this game nearly as fun as it was. Like, even to this day, you'll still see commentary YouTubers put fucking Skate 3 gameplay, or Skate 2 gameplay, because some people debate whether those two are the better ones, but they'll put gameplay of this game in the background because it's just a staple video game. It's just one of the ones you can always go back to, and they killed it by making a reboot that basically does not work the way you would think it does. And, you know, the Christ Air, like, battalion of niggas who can't put any other inputs into the controller. Whatever, fine, right? SXX. God, man, this one really... Okay, this one actually hurts. SXX, again, for those who don't know, this was their snowboarding series. I've actually snowboarded in real life, large part because of this series. I thought it was way cooler than fucking skiing, because I was like, skiing is for lames. It's so, like, it's not as cool. Like, you can do much cooler tricks on a skateboard and on a snowboard, so why would you not want the snowboarding experience if you're going down, like, a trail, right? And so, I ended up being a snowboarder, right? Like, even, I think next year when we go up there again, into California, I'm gonna do it again, because I'm not gonna be a skier. Fuck that shit. And the first three SXX games were amazing. PlayStation 2 exclusives, I'm pretty sure, unless they were also on Xbox. Oh, it was on Xbox, I didn't know that. SSX 3 in particular, I actually still have the box to this game, was like a definitive, again, forever game in my mind. I can always go back to it, hit a couple of just dumb tricks, free skate, do the infinite, do the open world cheat code for people that know. But they eventually got into SSX on tour, which I've been told is also actually pretty good. I've never played it. But then the last SXX game, which I was like, I have never played this, and I can't really vouch to whether or not it was nearly as stylish or cool as these first three games were. These games had an aesthetic that I can only describe as being very much from the fucking early 2000s when these shits came out. They were like very heavy on like a kind of graffiti-ass style. It played up the whole extreme part, especially Tricky and 3. They were very much like going for like a... Every single game that was developed by EA Sports Big was basically like meant to be this kind of like, you know, really fucking like cool, sleek, a new metal-esque type of experience. I don't know how else you would describe it. But it's dead now. Hasn't had another fucking title in about a decade and 3 years. Star Wars! Yes, sir! Actually, Star Wars is a bit of like a... I'll put a slash for it. There's not really like a bunch of bad games that they've made for Star Wars, and there's not a bunch of like superb ones, because they tended to be just either bought out by EA when they got their license to finally make all of these games, or, you know, it's not EA specifically that were responsible, but some company that they bought out that originally made these games. Like, for example, Respawn. You guys might know Respawn as the people that did Titanfall, and Apex Legends, and then the Star Wars Jedi games. Colette. I forgot this was a thing that was really weird. But it was founded by people that came from Infinity Ward, and for those who don't know, Infinity Ward was the people that created Call of Duty. So, again, you can see where these guys kind of keep interacting with each other multiple times in the industry, and how they're like, spin-offs and shoot-offs are all interconnected in this kind of like really odd way. But it's also kind of like a neat family tree that you can trace that, oh, these are the same people that were responsible for this kind of storied series. Like Jedi Knight. I know there's a lot of people that is very, 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 very invested in these games in their return. Their remakes or re-releases, remasters on the Switch and PlayStation 4 have received, roaring applause from the people that want to play stuff like Jedi Knight, Jedi Academy again. And now they're remaking KOTOR, or Knights of the Old Republic. People a lot of times will just say KOTOR because these games were BioWare, if I'm not mistaken, or were they? Yeah, it was BioWare. BioWare's attempt at making a Star Wars RPG. For the people that aren't even kind of interested in that, yeah, they're about as good as you could probably guess they were. And they also ended up making Star Wars The Old Republic, the MMO, which I have a storied history with because it was fairly good. And then we get into Battlefront. Oh man, okay, so this leads into what I was going to originally talk about with The Sims. So, Battlefront was developed by Pandemic Studios. Pandemic Studios does not exist anymore. There's another storied history in the video game industry of companies doing straight murder and execution style merger and acquisitions of various different developing firms that they want to cut their competitors away from so that they have the exclusive rights to publish their games and make a profit off of it. You see this all the time. Game Freak is basically a Nintendo. Like, you can't tell me that they're not just... I think they literally are just a subsidiary of Nintendo at this point. Same with HAL, for the people that play the Kirby games, And it's no different with companies like Activision Blizzard buying out Infinity Ward and eventually making it their game. Ubisoft buying up basically any company that they thought was making a halfway decent open world game, including ones that weren't, but fuck it. Point is that Battlefront... Oh, Microsoft is the absolute worst at this. Fuck them. They killed Fable. I will never forgive them for it. Battlefront was EA's kind of poster child of this. Pandemic Studios made the first two Battlefront games, which came out 2004 and my birth, 2005, for basically all the consoles that were available in the 6th generation. Is it 6th or 7th? I don't remember. And they didn't really do much after that, because eventually what happened to Pandemic Studio is that they got dissolved and was basically sold to EA. It got sold to EA in 2007, and then they were completely shut down by 2009, and their workforce was dissolved into the company. This is extremely common. It happens a ridiculous amount of times, where you will have a company make some type of game that people really like that might be published by a different company, or they let another company handle the publishing. Eventually that company, that developer company, will get bought out by the publisher, and they just dissolve the company and introduce them to the workforce. And eventually that's what happened with Pandemic. The guys from Pandemic would kind of sort of go on to form what is now known as DICE. DICE has a different history that's also not related to Star Wars Battlefront. They're more inclined to, if you were to ask them, most of the DICE people actually got their start with Battlefield, and then eventually the famous and also very dead Mirror's Edge franchise. Sorry for the people that play that game on Xbox. You're not getting another game anytime soon. And eventually EA DICE, because EA eventually bought DICE, made Star Wars Battlefront 2015. Sort of a remake or reboot of the original game. It was received, well, not exactly like it was super. Most people kind of chalked it up to being like a cash grab. They were just kind of getting in on the title of the game, since a lot of people have fond memories of the first two Battlefronts, right? And, they thought it was just kind of like oh, okay, well, this is neat, but it's not really all that superb, like, it's not blowing anybody's mind. A lot of the mechanics and stuff are still kind of the same from the original two Battlefronts. Nothing crazy. Then Battlefront 2 came out. Battlefront 2 might be a contender for... I think it's up there with maybe, like, Fallout 76 and Ride to Hell, as, like, considered one of the worst games ever made, critically. It doesn't even enter into the realm of it's so good it's bad, a la a Sonic 06. This is just trash, right? This game sucks. But not for the thing you may be thinking of. It wasn't quality-wise a really bad game. Most people agree even now that there were good bones in Star Wars Battlefront 2. The issue is this section.
Battlefront 2 received mixed reviews from critics, with praise for the multiplayer gameplay, balance in visuals, and variety, but criticisms for its single-player modes, campaign, microtransactions, and progression system. The game was also subject to widespread criticism regarding the status of its loot boxes, which could give players substantial gameplay advantages if purchased with real money.
You might be seeing why I made this video now. This is the poster child for how to boycott a shitty developer making shitty ideas with a shitty publisher in their video game. Right. This is how you do it. The real start of why it was considered a bad game came from the fact that people started to do the math on those loot boxes I mentioned. For the people that don't know what a fucking loot box is, it's basically, you know what a roulette wheel is, right? Spin a roulette wheel, try to call what number the ball is going to land on. Remove the ball. You don't know where the ball is going to land. And you can't visually see most of that process because it's math, right? So any of the thrill of it is just related to the randomness of what the spinner is doing. Eventually, you split the spinner into several different varieties of colors. Let's just say gray, green, blue, purple, and yellow, and maybe if you want to be really special, red. Red is the best, gray is the worst. You ever heard people mention fucking gray loot? That's like a Fortnite reference. But yellow and red can be considered exotic, legendary, the best of the best, right? Tier of their own, exalted. A loot box is basically how you randomize the ability of giving that out to players. By putting an RNG, or a random number generator, that says, this is the value that this player got as soon as they rolled and clicked on open the box, right? What that number is not told to the player, but they get to see the stupid loot box do its roulette wheel and decide how many times it's going to take for you to get the correct number to get the rarest of the items, right? Because that number has to fall within a gauge of, okay, if it hits the 99th percentile, basically the 1% that it ever will, right? Then it will give them a gold. It will give them a SSR for the people that play like any mobile game ever. Basically the top tier item. The issue is that most games have decided that unless you're a gacha game, and gacha games being like an Asian, the gacha mean gachapon, which comes from Japan, basically games that are designed to be scammer boxes, where you just click a button and thing happens, and you have to click it enough to get the thing that you want it to do. Most people have realized that loot boxes are not really good for mechanical gameplay progression, because the issue is if you leave gameplay progression up to a random chance spinner, it could leave some players getting extremely lucky and blazing past the progression system they were intended for, and some players will get left in the lurch, at least in a multiplayer game. In single-player games, loot drops and loot boxes aren't nearly as big of a problem, because the whole point is that, well, you can just keep doing whatever the fuck you want, because you're the only person who this really affects, right? Like, that's why loot drops in games like Borderlands are fun, is because, like, oh, I got the rare thing, and they did it enough times where it feels like an actual accomplishment. And it's cooperative, so even if you do play with other people, it's not like they can kill you or just outclass you in some type of way. You're all working toward the same goal. And that cannot be said about Battlefront. Battlefront is a multiplayer-oriented game. You are attempting to kill the other team. This is not like, we're not friends here. And because of the fact that some of these loot boxes contain things like the ability to open hero or villain characters. So, for example, a kind of famous thing that comes with this franchise is classes and heroes. So, Battlefront 2 has classes where the soldiers, kind of like in Battlefield, have a class. They're not like individual people you pick out that have like a weapon class or a weapon loadout like in a COD game. The classes are the exact same, and they have the exact same attachments and loadout regardless of basically the side that they're on. So in this case, Battlefield had Assault Heavy Officer and Specialist, or Battlefront had Assault Heavy Officer and Specialist. Assault is normally fast guy that has a really fast shooting gun that can do a lot of damage. Heavy guy is much slower dude, but his gun does way more things. Normally has a larger ammo capacity too. Officers tend to be, well, in this case the officer would probably be compared to the engineer class, or basically the guy that builds shit to class from Battlefield or TF2, if you played that. And then Specialist is medical, right? Normally oriented toward trying to save other players quicker. Their guns and weaponry doesn't really do nearly as much, or they might be relegated to a sniper role, depending on how you go about that. But they normally have, as the name suggests, a specialized role on the fighting field. And then Starfighter classes, Fighter, Interceptor, and Bomber. Those are kind of self-explanatory, right? But they're also heroes. The heroes are actual Battlefront, like, Star Wars characters. So, like, for example, unlike the other Battlefront games where you basically had to play as a bum until you got the level up, into going into the new character that you could do massive damage in, like the previous games, where, like, oh, it's a bunch of droids who are all working for the Galactic Empire. So, of course, they can summon Kylo Ren as their main big bad guy once he gets enough points to become basically Kylo Ren. And then he can do all his damage to the other side. And then Stormtroopers on the Rebel side might be able to do, they might be able to send in, like, Padawan Anakin, or, I don't know, Obi-Wan, some shit like that, right? It is that sort of dichotomy of being able to get a hero that makes it important. The issue is that you couldn't unlock heroes from the jump. You did not get all of the heroes for your side that you wanted to play as from the very beginning of the game. That's not how this works. You had to unlock them. Normally through that microtransaction loot box system I mentioned earlier. And people were pissed. I think somebody did the math on Reddit that was basically like, you would have to have spent $35,000 in order to have a guaranteed chance of unlocking Darth Vader as a fighter if you played as the villain side, basically. No. And the comments they made on Reddit that said, oh yeah, the 40 hours of grinding to accumulate enough credits to unlock a single hero for either side, right? They went and said on Reddit that this was pride of accomplishment in the sense of unlocking a hero after grinding that many fucking hours in a video game to do this. and they got lampooned. They got destroyed. They got immediately sent to the shitter, right? Put on a fucking block and tomatoes thrown at their face, right? This was bad. I believe the comment that they made is the most downvoted comment in Reddit's entire history. And they got fucked. More importantly, the EU came in, told them that you better stop this shit or else you're going to have a lot of fucking problems with the rest of us. Because we have real laws in the EU that say that you can't sell gambling to children because it's illegal. I mean, we do in the United States, but we don't enforce that shit. If you're 20 and they're not going to ask you for your fucking card if you go into a casino and want to play on a craps table. Especially if you have fucking money. And so, they tried to say that the loot boxes were quite ethical and fun, and that they were the equivalent to Kinder Eggs. Now, for the people in the audience that don't know what the fuck Kinder Egg is, they are tiny chocolate eggs. They are not illegal in the United States, which is why you barely ever see them, but they are in Europe, and they're quite good. But the idea of a Kinder Egg is that inside of the egg is actually a plastic part that has a little toy in it. That a lot of kids really like those, by the way. But the toy is random. You can't pick what toy you want by choosing a specific Kinder Egg. It's like a gachapon machine. You put in a quarter, you spin it around. Oh, I got the Ultra Instinct Goku, I actually do have an Ultra Instinct Goku keychain from a gachapon machine I got when I was out in Europe, because they've spread basically everywhere. They're not the same as fucking Kinder Eggs. I don't think I need to say that that's a bullshit statement. And they got lampooned and they had to take it all out. Eventually, a different edition of the game called the Celebration Edition came out, which included all the characters and cosmetic options with much less grinding, so that you could reasonably lock heroes, basically, from the beginning of the game. And it had completely changed how the game was played in general. Now, it's basically like a MOBA, right? It's basically like an arena shooter, where you've got a bunch of these characters that are all basically playing as, some folks play as heroes, some folks are playing as regular goons, some folks are switching on the fly to try and match what the team that they're going against is doing, and it actually plays like a real video game. Wow, I know, it's crazy, right? They had to force EA to make their game feel like a video game again. Maxis, I don't think I need to say it, but Maxis is definitely the people more so responsible than just EA for the reason why this has happened. EA is definitely responsible, don't get it twisted. You can definitely point the finger at them and their shitty decision making on a daily basis, but we know that fucking EA sucks. EA is evil has been the sentiment with that company basically since like the 2010s. They were literally voted the most evil company on the planet, which, multiple times too. Congratulations, they were like the worst company in America. Like, these guys are the actual devs though. Who made these games? Oh, and they didn't just make The Sims 4. Not just The Sims. They also made Sin City. Yeah, I bet y'all don't know about this. This was actually my bread and butter, really, as a kid. I don't know what it is about particularly seeing a kingdom, a city, a town, a metropolis be built from basically nothing that really gets me. I don't know, maybe this speaks to the inner socialist, maybe this speaks to the inner person who thought they were going to be an engineer before they switched it to a degree that sounds more like an art degree. I don't know what the fuck it speaks to inside my body, but what it does speak to is the fact that I like these games a lot. It killed it. Sims 4 killed this fucking game. Really, the reboot killed it, but the reboot was killed because of the fact that EA was so busy sniffing their own farts, and Maxis were too, that they basically said, you know what we're gonna do? Instead of redirecting assets, time, and developers towards the SimCity reboot of a franchise that was once considered one of the best PC games ever made at a certain point in time, they decided to say, fuck this. Fuck this game that is literally named after the game that built our company off from the fucking ground. Maxis said, nah, we gonna send some of our niggas to go make this bullshit. They killed this game for this. SimCity 4 wasn't amazing. Like, most people would tell you that off the rip. I think most people agree that either SimCity 2000 or 3000 is the best game in this franchise, right? Those are the games that a lot of people think of when they think of the really positive memories they have with SimCity. Not SimCity 4, and definitely not the fucking reboot. But this definitively killed any hope of ever seeing a SimCity 2 reboot. That wasn't ever gonna happen. They killed it. And it's basically unplayable now. You can't do anything. You have to have a mandatory internet connection even to play the game in the first place, which EA is sort of infamous for, their stupid always-online DRM schemes, their de novo deviancy, if you will, but this was a new low that people, even in 2013, recognized as being piss poor shit. And it killed basically Maxis Emeryville to the point where they don't make shit for SimCity, or any type of non-the-sim game at this point. Of course, some people in the audience may think and know that, hey, this ended up becoming City Skylines, because Paradox bought a lot of the assets and kind of a lot of the people into trying to make a SimCity type of game, which is now sort of considered the spiritual successor to SimCity. I don't think I need to say that SimCities went into, while good, I don't think they are nearly as beloved as City Skylines is now, where most people agree that this was a significantly better game in almost every way that possibly mattered. Yet again, Paradox have proved themselves to be the publisher of the people, except, you know, when it's Nazis or some shit, but ignore that. Sea Skylines 2, I've been hearing some things about it. I have not tapped in quite yet. I've heard some interesting things about how much it taxes the computers. I've been kind of holding off on really going full in on it, but I've also heard it's fairly good. And then we get to Spore. I didn't even think people knew this, but Spore is considered a part of the larger Sims game. Not The Sims, but just Sims games. Spore is uniquely interesting as a development, like, just everything surrounding this game could probably be made into a video uniquely by itself. And there are plenty of people that have made that video. So I'd recommend go looking at, like, I don't know, fuck, there's a billion of them. Like, I think Reisevik also did a video on Spore. There are too many Spore videos to count. But the general gist of Spore, for people that don't know, is that, similar to The Sims, it's a life simulation game. But it's not simulating just humanity or humans in an individual basis. You're simulating the entirety of a species being developed throughout just the beginning of the biological stages of life to becoming, as the Wikipedia page mentions, a spacefaring culture, kind of full Star Trek on them. It is considered like one of the definitive games that came out in the 2000s. It was praised, telling back. Like, as you can see, it definitely didn't do bad on the reviewers circuit, as you can see here. But at the same time, we kind of know now in retrospect that there were a lot of issues with this game that did not go well in development. In fact, it's actually one of the few games that have an entire page on Wikipedia developed, just solely squared off to the development of this one game, because it was so fucking bad. It was so weird. But it's definitely a game that needed expansion, and definitely would have done better if it had sequels to carry on the natural progression of what they were doing with this game. It was a good game. I don't think most people will take away from Spore that it was at least a good game, a fun game. For what it's worth, it might not be nearly as in-depth as it was supposed to be, it might not be nearly as mechanically developed as it was supposed to be, but it's not a bad game. And it's dead. They killed it again. They keep fucking killing these games. So, eventually they came out with a couple of little, you know, like Galactic Adventures, a couple of expansions for it, but eventually they realized that this wasn't doing nearly as well as their other ones. So they tried to spin it off into stuff like the Origins, the mobile spin-off, for iPhones and iPods and the DS, which for Origins is basically just the cell phase if you made it an entire fucking game. Or, like, Feeding Frenzy for people that were born in 2003 or something. But then there was one of these games that I personally have a deep love of, and that was Darkspore. Darkspore is an action RPG, a top-down action RPG at that, very Diablo-esque. It basically took the idea of making a species, a creature from the ground up that they came up with in Spore, and turned it into a way to make a literal player character that had squad-based fighting in it as a part of its campaign, and your abilities were determined by the creature that you made and what all it can do. And it was very fucking cool. It was extremely fucking cool. I know that a lot of people think it was like a mid-game and it wasn't nearly as fun. I think Ross Too Fat made a fucking review of it, whatever. Point still stands. This game was fucking cool, and they killed it. They killed it to try and maintain pace with fucking Sims 3. They gave it a DRM scheme that requires a connection to the internal servers that EA was using to run this damn thing, which no longer exists. So if you bought Darkspore when it originally came out, it does not work. You cannot buy it, you cannot even crack it, because if you were to, you would just basically be sitting at the loading screen waiting for the thing to connect to a server that doesn't exist. And that leads us back to The Sims 4. I said this video was going to be long, but I'm lying. Let's just fucking do this. Unlike the last video the last time I tried to record this video, I'm heading to take that entire tangent, specifically so I can express to you how much I dislike this fucking game. I was a big fan of The Sims 3, even though, you know, in retrospect, there are a lot of issues with it. It had some performance problems. The cast system was definitely something that should have been only introduced on computers that could have handled it, but for the most part, the stuff that it did add, its expansion packs, most of the stuff that had become sort of second nature in The Sims, were well received. Were there features that EA said that were going to come out in The Sims 3 that didn't? Yes, because they do this shit all the time. Were there features that they basically said that they were going to add as expansions that they never did? Yes, again, they do this all the time. But at the end of the day, when I look back on The Sims 3, and 2, and 1, they're all fairly good games that build off of one another in some way, right? The building in 3 is definitely better than 2, and they're both infinitely better than 1 in my opinion. But there are specific things that each game I think is decent at. I think the social aspects of Sim 2 are slightly stronger than Sim 3. I like the randomness that comes from Sim 1 more than both of them. Mainly because The Sims 1 feels like it's an actual simulation more than just a social game. But point still stands. They're all good games, and they all reiterate on one another. What did the fucking Sims 4 do? What did it do? I'm seriously asking you this question, the same way I asked it to the niggas in the high sodium Sims subreddit. What does this game offer? What is it specifically giving you? Half of the shit that was in Sims 3 as expansions that people thought were going to be base game drops when the Sims 4 came out had to be put in download and expansion packs. This is the game that has the most DLC ever made for it. There's nothing else similar to this. MMOs don't really count, because those expansions and, extra stuff that you can buy for them, those are stuff that you can buy in the game itself as well, right? Or you could just purchase with in-game currency, like gold in World of Warcraft, right? This game has 20 fucking expansion packs, 12 game packs. I don't even know how many fucking kits or stuff packs there are. I think I looked in one of my old tutorials, right? This is obscene. This is absurd, really. This is one of the most played games on the planet, just in general. It's also one of the most pirated games on the planet. And, people always mention that Gabe quote, for the people that don't know. Gabe Newell, who is one of the founders and basically, I don't know if, is he still the CEO of Steam? One of the main head honchos at Steam that basically built the company from the ground up. Or I say Steam, Valve. Had a sort of aphorism he would always say when it came to talking about piracy for Valve's games. Because it was a problem for stuff like Half-Life 1 and 2. And eventually it became a problem for stuff like Counter-Strike and Team Fortress. But he mentioned that a game that has a positive consumer relationship basically never gets pirated. You don't pirate games that you actually think are worth its price, right? If you do think a game is worth its price, more often than not, because of the hoops that are involved with having to pirate it, you won't. You just buy it. I think EA and Maxis heard that aphorism, they heard that quote, and they thought, how can we do the exact inverse of what Gabe was talking about? How do we make a game that is so anti-consumer that it basically appeals to virtually no one by the time it's about to get its fucking remaster? This game is going to get a remaster. A remaster. Think about that. This is what's going to be getting a second version of itself. A game that's been out for a decade plus. A game that has been out on multiple platforms for at least 5 years plus. What are we talking about? Why is this getting a fucking remaster and not another game in the franchise? Why are they making Sims 4.2.0? Like, what? Are we serious? Is this what you want? For real? Like, is this what you were asking for? When you would give these people criticism for in Sims 3 that you didn't want? You wanted this many fucking DLCs and I'm still scrolling. Like, are we dead ass? The Wikipedia article still doesn't even have the criticism and controversy that came from the fucking SpongeBob packs that came out this year. They still have that stupid Star Wars one. I don't know. Maybe it's because I actually value... No, I don't value my time. I do a lot of shit that wastes it anyways. But maybe it's because I value the art that I consume, right? That this is so unappealing to me on a perspective of both bad and good art that it's sort of funny, right? It loops back around to kind of making me mad, but also being funny that people indulge in this in the first place, right? Bad games normally occupy two territories. Bad enough that it wraps back around to being good. Again, that's like a Ride to Hell Redemption, like a game that has like a fucking weird sex scene in it, or Sonic 06, which is just so laughably bad and incompetent constantly that it comes back around to feeling endearing. Like, Sega was trying at least when they made this. Sonic Team had a goal in mind. It just didn't do it, but it still wasn't bad. But then there are games like Sonic Chronicles The Dark Brotherhood, which I cannot for the life of me think of anything to say about that game other than it is definitely a BioWare RPG. Like, you can say they made a BioWare RPG about a Sonic game on the DS. And the music sounds like shit because the guy that produced it basically lost all the files to it and had to remake everything within like a week. It's a game, but it's a game that isn't like notable, not only for its obscurity, but it's also just not as fun as the other DS RPGs on that console. The Sims 4 occupies that territory of bad enough to be negligible in its identity, right? It's so bad that I don't even think of it as the fourth Sims game from the same franchise that had 1, 2, and 3, and My Sims and Medieval. I feel as it is The Sims 4 by itself, in the same way that Destiny 2 does not feel like it's the sequel game to Destiny 1. It does not feel like an expansion or an evolution of any of the thoughts, mechanics, or ideas that came with its original game. It feels like Destiny 2, the standalone title, and Destiny 1 was itself a standalone title. Remember when games used to, when they put a 2 on the box, it meant that they were doing something different from the first? Like, Kingdom Hearts 1 does not play the same as Kingdom Hearts 2. Kingdom Hearts 2 does not play the same as Kingdom Hearts 3. They're different games. They have the same bones, yeah, but they don't do the same things. People criticize Kingdom Hearts 3 for feeling floaty, when I feel like that's a criticism you can also levy for the first game. Fuck me, I guess, I don't know. And people mention that Kingdom Hearts 2 has a much more, grounded and kind of expansive combat system. DMC 2 does not play the same way that DMC 1 does. For better or for worse. This can constantly happen. Mega Man 2 has 2 extra Robot Masters to go for the 8 that we basically know the franchise has had since the dawn of time. But people don't tend to remember that the first game only had 6. Like, Gutsman was one of 6 niggas, not 8. Cutman is a bum, but he was one of the first original 6 bums, not 8 guys that kind of went on to be the famous ones. I don't know. It's just personally, this part of it still fries me. That this is the 4th game in this franchise. In one of the best-selling game franchises ever made, this is what came out of it. Does that not feel disproportionate to what came before? And if you go to the Sims 3 Wikipedia page, it's considered one of the best video games ever made. It's on a list. Same with the Sims 2 and the original Sims. You know what game on that list does not have that title? Sims 4. I don't know. Now, the other half of this video that I wanted to basically address was, by the way, thank you, Periwinkle, for this idea, even though it was kind of already something I was thinking about talking about in the first place. But I'm glad somebody was able to give me the reality check that it would have at least been enjoyed by somebody. This. I took it to task a little bit in the last one, the video I did on the tutorial for the legit Sims install, and using Luann's kit. But I didn't really express I don't think I really made it abundantly clear how much this is the most unappealing thing you could have possibly made with this fucking platform. Like, The Sims is a franchise that's kind of famous for its modding, ability. Like, you will consistently hear things about how The Sims is one of the most modded games also on the planet, right? It's up there with, like, Fallout 4 and Skyrim and Minecraft as being a game that's incredibly modular, right? And yet, I feel as if that these people have somehow fallen into the rabbit hole that the Bethesda people have been attempting for the past 2-something decades to avoid getting into, right? Ever since Horse Armor, which for those who don't know, Horse Armor was this whole controversy back when The Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion came out, where there was this DLC for Horse Armor. And, I guess to y'all that might not sound super crazy, but back when expansion packs meant that there had to be the actual expansion of what the original game shit had, a DLC that was oriented around only an armor set for horses, and virtually nothing else. There was no quest to get them, there was no larger equestrian overhaul that came with the DLC, it was just horse armor. Bethesda got killed for horse armor. It's still one of those things by just saying the name horse armor that people in that community kind of retroactively know what the fuck you meant by, oh my god, here we go, we're about to have a discussion about how Bethesda really fucking hates people who buy their DLCs. Because they don't add a lot of content to them, generally. And I think the issue is that for all of the complaining that people did about horse armor, they still bought it, right? Horse armor is still like a fairly popular joke, but it was still purchased en masse when it came out because people wanted their horses to look cool, right? Eventually it became a sort of joke that when they did the same thing in fucking Skyrim, that, oh my god, it's horse armor all over again, except now we're doing the paid version of it. And that leads into the Creation Club. I mentioned Creation Club before, but this is like infinitely worse. A modding community that's built around commodification of mods, like I'm shopping on a Sears catalog list, is really sickening to me. Because the whole point of a mod is that it's the thing that the developers didn't do, that the community is doing, because they want to see it in the game that they enjoy playing. It should never be a supplement to some shit that developers should have put in the game, but have refused to, repeatedly. Or it shouldn't be fixing mistakes that the developers made with that game, either. That's why one of my least favorite types of mods are bug fixes, because they are so common because people just don't fucking make any other types of mod whenever a Bethesda game or any open world RPG comes out, until they have a bug fix mod that fixes all of the fucking issues and problems that should have been schemed, ironed out by the developers when they originally crafted it. Ah, fuck it. We'll just leave it to the modders. They'll fix everything. And what did that lead them to? It led them to the fucking Creation Club, guys. Like, the creator class. What is this? Paid mods. A system where people would be paid by the fucking company to make modifications for their games. Modifications, mind you, that many of them already fucking made on Nexus, or on whatever goddamn platform they upload their mods to. I await the day that EA and Maxis eventually say, we will hire the guy that did Wicked Whims. When The Sims 5, or Sims 4 Remastered 4.2.0 comes out. When they eventually do cross this barrier into doing Creation Club, into doing moderators, doing paid moderation for their paid mods, so that even if you do own the game, you have to go and find pirated versions of mods to put in your game if you don't want to pay for them. I will wait the day EA does this and Maxis gives them the green light to go ahead. Well, actually, flip it. That Maxis does this and EA gives them the green light because they're greedy, money-hungry bums. This just screams to me like it's going to be used by somebody who has a vested interest in making money off of it. Just a vested interest in making sure that you can swindle so much money off of the 2 million monthly niggas who come on this website and upload almost 5 million files worth of content. You've got 10k active artists working for this company. Why wouldn't EA use this as a source of revenue? From what I've been told by some people, they already kind of have. A lot of they have like some paid mod thing that they're trying to promote nowadays. Creations that specifically come from modders. But do people not realize that this was not popular? This was lampooned when this originally came out. The people that went to fucking QuakeCon had so many questions about what the Creation Club was that eventually they basically shut it all down and told them niggas, you'll see when the game comes out. You'll see when this shit comes out, when Special Edition for Skyrim comes out, or when Fallout 4 has its upgrades, or when Starfield comes out. You'll see what people make for them. And that just feels super nasty to me. I don't know, like, mods should not be fucking paid for. That's not, if you put your mods on Patreon so that people have to pay for your content that is just modifying somebody else's game, then you've lost the plot. Just flat out. I'm sorry, even the people that make mods that they put on Patreon, bullshit. That's nonsense. I do agree that you should be paid for your hard work. I do agree that they should probably just hire you as a developer. What I do not agree with is forcing people who want to modify their game in a specific way to have to pay for that experience, when the point is that if they wanted that in the experience they paid for, they should have just put it in the fucking game in the first place. Right? If I don't want bugs in my game, why would I want to pay Darth Moore on Patreon for it? He doesn't actually do that. Don't. If you heard that, don't fucking bring him up. I don't want to get lampooned. Point being, though, is that I don't think that's normal. And I don't think that having a website where it has a VIP catalog of early access mods, not even Nexus does that. You pay for the premium on Nexus to get faster mod downloads, not access to them. Nobody has ever uploaded a early access mod. And if they do, it's normally also free, and then they patch it to be the full release. Not this shit. This is bad. Hastings Joyce wallpaper. Had to be early access. Only get this with a fucking subscription to this website. Oh, how much does that cost? I've mentioned this before. Annual plan is $2 a month. In other words, $24 a year. Or, if you do it a month, then you're paying, well, let's do that now. It's $12 for 1 month of it, so you're at least gonna have to pay $60. Like, you're at least paying $60 for this. For a month of being able to just download mods and skip a timer. Ad-free downloads. Like, I can't just use a fucking ad blocker. Get real. Just please. If you people use websites like this, which, I mean, this is apparently the oldest fucking Sims fan site ever made. Of course it's probably going to be a website that most people use. It's covered by Screen Rant and whatever other bullshit that's it said. That just... You can't... Don't let this happen. Don't let them do this to you. Because it happened to my games that I love, and I can no longer see them the same way because of it. And that's the mod part. So, the last portion that I wanted to talk about was the community response. Specifically because of the controversy surrounding a lot of the recent Sims 4 YouTubers downloading the mod packs. Not mod packs, no, I wouldn't imply that this is kind of easy. Downloading the fucking shit that basically ended up being, like, detrimental to how this game operates. You know, shit like the Enchanted by Nature pack, Adventure Awaits, the shitty SpongeBob fucking collab. Like, that's normal. Like, that's not just a fucking crash grab. Are we serious? In particular, I've heard a lot about Lil Simpson. I don't have any ill will toward her. I think she's perfectly fine. She was not my Sims YouTuber when I was growing up. That would be Berleezy. But, you know, I wasn't exactly the Sims kid in the first place. I've always thought The Sims was much more oriented toward people who like micromanaging each other's lives. In other words, women. I'm playing. That's a joke. Sorry. But, like, I always thought, and I still kind of, to an extent, think that it is oriented toward women in a way that the rest of the Sims, the Sims franchise, like SimCity and Spore, isn't, right? I feel like Spore is the answer for the dudes that want to play, like, a god game again, like Good versus Evil or something like that. Or I think it's called Good and Evil, not versus, it's my fault. Or SimCity, right? Like, the guys that care about taxation rates, about the, you know, the restaurant they just put in their new city. Or the folks that play, like, Frostpunk or something. Like, you know, those guys. Strategy game players, they also care about simulation aspects in their game. Not necessarily, like, just, oh, I can't wait to give my Sims a BBL and have her go through a teenage pregnancy, right? Like, I'm not that type of person. Mainly because the thing about simulating real-life things in a video game is that eventually the issue becomes how much of this is actually me vicariously living through my character. How much do I just want to be doing these things in real life? And how much of this do I not want to be doing in real life? Because to me, video games is escapism, right? It's a form of being able to do something else that isn't real life, because real life fucking sucks. And I've never found a lot of joy in the mainline Sims games, because a lot of them are oriented around doing real life shit that people have entire stories and drama and actual art to make about. And I don't feel like The Sims is conducive to that. I feel like it just makes a simulacrum of that, if you will, which is the point, but like, I don't know, I feel like that's redundant. Whatever my personal thoughts on it are, I just think this idea that a lot of these YouTubers are going with, that I am going to buy this thing to tell you, audience member, not to buy it, is the dumbest form of boycotting ever, because it's not boycotting. You cannot use products of a thing that you are currently attempting to boycott in order to prove to others why that thing is bad. The Montgomery bus boycott did not work because Martin Luther King Jr. said that we're going to go on the bus a couple of times to prove how shitty the service is. They didn't use the fucking bus. Like, this is... I don't know how else to put it, right? Like, you can't go to Publix if you hate the Publix niggas. I don't like the Publix niggas, but I can't boycott them. And I would also make the argument that boycotts are kind of a wash in 21st century society for numerous reasons. Because the issue is that there's not a whole lot of alternatives if you live in urban or rural areas. Like, if you live in a food desert, what are you going to do if the Publix is the only thing that's near you for good, decent food, and that's not from a fast food place? What the hell are you going to experience? And in that, the struggle of how to describe The Sims 4 and boycotting it becomes clear, right? I know I'm speaking like it's a political dissertation or something, or like it's a manifesto, but like, run with me for a second. You have to see it in that similar sense to gain any idea of why what they're doing is stupid. Because if you don't, then you misattribute them being critical of EA, but also making money from their criticalness, right? The thing that, you know, most people don't get about a boycott is that you're not actually supposed to succeed or be successful afterward, right? A lot of times a boycott is about failure. Specifically, normally it's about losing access to a thing that's convenient or useful because of the fact that that convenience represents a negative aspect about society. I mean, Reject Convenience's channel is literally about this exact concept of don't do these dumb, horrible things to other humans because it's easy. Don't do it because you're a good person. Do it because you have a soul, right? And don't try to get money off of the process of you not doing it. That defeats the whole fucking purpose. Like, even though I cannot tell you if that video is monetized or not, I wouldn't put it past Lil Simsy to monetize a video saying why you shouldn't monetize, give monetization over to a company that has been making this type of bullshit for eons at this point. Like, are we serious? Like, you really gonna tell me with a thumbnail like this that she wasn't that she was really trying to like whip y'all over to not fucking do this? This is what a thumbnail looks like if you actually don't want people to fucking do. If you want people to do what you say, you make a thumbnail that says The Sims 4 All Packs Free Windows Tutorial. If you want people to follow what you're talking about, you make a tutorial where the thumbnail is Kuja talking to a dude in a do-rag trying to explain to Simmers that they shouldn't pay for a lick of this fucking company's wealth any longer. Sorry, not sorry. Just a hint, just a thought, right? That maybe you shouldn't make a fucking video of you doing a ooh face to SpongeBob as if he's the problem here. I can't stress this enough. SpongeBob isn't the issue. Like, SpongeBob being in the DLC is not a problem. The problem is that this is the DLC they came out with at one of the lowest periods of this community's, like, morale, basically. It's the equivalent of, like, the shit that came out when Bungie did when the CEO got caught with the car things, when, like, when Beyond Light was, like, going the way of the shitter, and then Lightfall happened, right? Like, not Beyond Light, I think it was actually, it was Witch Queen, then, yeah. So, like, when Lightfall happened, you know, what doesn't help is hearing that the company's about to be bought out by Sony. And that the guy that literally got basically burnt at the stake for, like, pulling his employees' jobs so that he can maintain his luxury car collection is now getting sent home with a retirement package. And he's leaving the company right before he hands the doors of the currently exploded building to a new guy that basically has to look him up and down and go, okay, sure. I commend this lady because she basically was able to do what I could not do and reduce a 30-minute long video of me also yapping to a 10-minute long video that basically allows you to do the same thing. So I'd also recommend her channel if you think I just talk too much. But, you know, this is the company that you've got. This is the people that make the game that you make forever worlds in. And relaxing speed builds of. The thing about Mojang is that I don't feel like I'm an evil person for supporting Mojang. I know that might sound crazy because of Microsoft owning them now, but Mojang has historically kind of done their own thing outside of them. well, as of late, it's a little harder to justify that, but my thing has always been, Mojang was an independent company that made a video game that ended up being the most successful video game ever made, right? That takes guts. Of any indie game ever, it's the preeminent example, other than maybe Undertale, right? And so that's impressive by itself. But what makes it even more impressive is the fact that when they did get bought out, it didn't feel like my soul was being sacrificed to still play Minecraft. I don't feel like a dickhead for playing RL Craft or Stoneblock or Skyblock or any mod pack ever. I don't feel like a jackass playing or supporting Mojang for buying those weird Bedrock packs, although, I'm not gonna lie, if you still play Bedrock in 2025, I think you have bigger problems, twin. Point being is that this is not the thing you think it is. I think EA is an evil company that just got bought out by even more despicable people than normal. The Saudis own this company. The Saudis! Do you know who the fuck the Saudis are? These niggas are the ones who are actually... I was about to say something crazy, so I'm gonna stop. I would do your research on what actually happened on September 11th before I say anything else. But all I'm gonna say is, hey, a country where they just allow women to even fucking get behind the wheel should not be the owners of one of its largest entertainment companies ever. I don't know. One of our largest... I should have said R. One of our largest entertainment companies is owned by a fucking dude whose most famous thing is that he was the son-in-law to a despot, to a guy that's currently like the most unpopular president ever. Does that sound like something you want to be associated with? Like, why are we making a medieval forever save in Sims 4 when you could just play Sims Midi? Oh my fucking god, these people are stupid. You're stupid and they will rob you for all the fucking money that they think you're worth because they don't respect you. And they think that you're dumb and stupid and a rube. These are shills. And not in the internet way of that word, where like niggas on Reddit would tell you a shill is somebody who just thinks that the stock ain't gonna go up. They are a real shill. They are the definitional shill. These people most of them are fucking part of that stupid creator program. Are we serious? Like, if you're in a content creator program for a company that it makes the game that you publish the majority of your content based around, you can never be trusted to criticize that company. Ever. You're beholden to them. In the same way that niggas on every political side, whether you're Democrat or Republican, is beholden to some type of lobbyist because they're paying you. At the end of the day, it's capitalism. And capitalism works by paying niggas. That's its entire premise. If you get paid, you are beholden to the person that is giving you that money. The only thing I'm going to tell you people to do, anything, if you learn anything from this video, is to follow the money. I'm not going to say nothing. This isn't no Jewish thing. This isn't no conspiracy dumb, like some right-winger telling you to like, oh my god, the gays are... This is a bisexual man. Look at where the money is flowing. Because the money is going toward a group of people that are responsible for some of the worst atrocities on the fucking planet. That is who you're beholden to. That is who these people are beholden to. If they decide to do something with their modders, that's who the modders are going to be beholden to. That's why I don't make fucking content surrounding games. In large part because a lot of the games I play are made by people I don't particularly fucking like. Sometimes you'll find indie games that are perfectly fine, right? No strings attached, like a Gearbox or something, hey. But I don't like fucking 2K Interactive. Fuck Ronnie. Fuck Mike Wang. You know, we from some flight team stand up on this bitch. I'm not about to sit here and try and lie to you niggas. This is silly. You got these niggas talking about why it feels boring after playing only for 5 minutes. And then you'll buy the pack still. Sims 4 is officially ending. Oh wow, crazy. But you're gonna be the first nigga that buys the remaster once it comes out, won't you? There's a word for this. A word I can't say without feeling like I'm being obscenely mean. But I feel like I has to be said. These people are stupid. And they think you are too. I don't call folks stupid, like, meaningfully very often, but I think they genuinely think you're stupid. If you consume their content, I think... If you continue to consume their content, I would argue that you're doing it to yourself at a certain point. You're just not educated. Or if you do, after watching a video like this, then you are educated, and you are just malicious. I personally think The Sims is a game that gets the more fun, the less you learn about it. The more that you let it surprise you. Because it's not an RPG. I'm not trying to learn the mechanics to The Sims. It just happens, because it's a fucking game about life, and life just happens. I don't know. Maybe I'm getting too worked up about this. This video is already, in my recording session, about an hour and 30 minutes long. So I don't want to get into any more screaming. Because I feel as if that's not going to be productive. And I'm already going to speed this up. But, I don't know. I feel as if you should really take an honest-to-God look deep within your souls and ask the question, is this the only fucking game I can do this with? If the answer is yes, and Paralyze hasn't come out, and IMBU is dead to you, and I was going to call it Yumi Nikki, but that's definitely not the game I fucking don't remember what it's called. If you don't have no other social sim game that's available basically anywhere, then kind of like my first video, I just tell you to expand your horizons. A lot of the people in high sodium sims seem to have taken that message to heart, because it's a good one. But, you know, in case you needed to be told if you were one of her subscribers, I would be very, very cautious when dealing with people who are beholden to companies that have made their entire livelihoods. Because they, more often than not, when they are wounded by said company, will become antsy, like a little crazy, a little cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. And you, dear viewer, may be on the chopping block next. As always, sell the 7 Cs responsibly. Fuck EA.
I can't play right now. Stand 2 feet on the ground. Ain't no more people around. It makes it easier now. I wonder what everyone's seeing me now. State to state, I'm flying around. You get it. I gotta put it in their face, they get it. I can't put it no other way. I'm lit. I'm the only one left that's real. Got tired of standing still. Push up and your leg get peeled. I was lit before I signed the deal. Rolling weed out the vacuum seal. I had to sip a couple of meals till I made me a couple of meals. Yeah, I already went.